Ready? Okay. Okay. I'm Chief Guzman with the Green Cove Springs Police Department. On Tuesday morning, December the 13th, at approximately 6:45 a.m., the Green Cove Springs Police Department responded to the 700 block of Calico Jack Way in reference to a disturbance at a residence. Upon arrival, patrol officers encountered one male subject with a gunshot wound to the upper left arm and a female who resided at the home. The male was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Further investigation revealed that there was some sort of altercation in the home between the male victim and a male suspect. The male suspect was identified and an arrest warrant was subsequently obtained for his arrest. After being unable to locate the suspect the first day, the Green Cove Springs Police Department's Criminal Investigation Section reached out to the U.S. Marshals Service for assistance in locating and apprehending the suspect. At that point, the marshals took over the case and at some point reached out to the Clay County Sheriff's Office for further assistance. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to the undersheriff, and he can give you some more information about what happened with his deputies here in the city today. Ron?
Thank you, Chief. About 8:30 this morning, the Clay County Sheriff's Office Fugitive Unit detectives and other undercover deputies from our agency were working a surveillance operation in the area of Joey Drive and West Street with our partners from the U.S. Marshals Task Force to support the Green Cove Police Department in their pursuit of this suspect. We were looking for 24-year-old Quentin Deshaun Simmons, who had an outstanding arrest warrant for attempted murder. Just before 11 o'clock this morning, the group noticed an individual matching Simmons' description leave on a bicycle and followed him to determine if he was the fugitive. Simmons realized that he was being followed in the 1200 block of North Street, and he pulled out a handgun. He fired at a deputy's vehicle, striking it before the deputy could exit his car. Simmons then fled down between the 1200 and 1300 blocks of North Street, firing at the vehicles of at least two other deputies that were also as part of the surveillance team. At least one of our deputies returned fire, but neither Simmons nor our deputies were hit by gunfire today. Simmons then fled through several residential yards where he was taken into custody by members of the surveillance team. The suspect's firearm was recovered, and we have at least two Clay County Sheriff's Office vehicles that were hit by gunfire from Simmons. You know, we're lucky that we did not have a law enforcement officer shot today, and I'm thankful for those that we have that protect and serve and put themselves in harm's way to keep our community safe. We're currently processing the crime scene, which is rather large because it spans several blocks, as I mentioned earlier. But it's important that everybody knows there is no current danger. We're not looking for any other suspects. There's nobody outstanding. The suspect is in custody and he's being interviewed by detectives. Part of what we're doing with our processing of the area is also a damage assessment. The suspect fired multiple shots, as did the deputies. So if anybody finds any of their property that's damaged by gunfire and they haven't already been contacted by our folks that are processing the scene, please call us at 904-264-6512. That's 904-264-6512 so that we can report any damage that was caused by today's incident. Further information on today will be released as it becomes available, but I can't answer a few questions for what I do know now.
Can you speak, either you or Chief Guzman, speak to the decision, the motivation to bring in the U.S. Marshals?
Sure. The U.S. Marshals are known for their abilities to locate and apprehend suspects. We have used them in the past. The Sheriff's Office has a deputy assigned to their task force, so we have good relations with them, and they're the ones to call when you need to find a bad guy.
It's always a difficult decision whenever officers have to fire rounds in an area where there's property. Can you talk about the difficulty that goes into that decision, and what was the assessment of that?
Sure. So, you know, backdrop is always an important assessment, but you've got an individual, in today's case, you know, he never even gave the deputies an opportunity to take him into custody peacefully. Before they could even verbally engage him, he pulled out a firearm and started shooting. So when you have somebody who's actively shooting in an area where there's residents, you know, they have to do what they have to do to try to stop him as quickly as possible to reduce the possibility, hope I didn't damage somebody's microphone, to reduce the possibility of potentially having harm done to somebody there in the community.
What the officers who were involved, particularly the ones that discharged their weapons, how are they being debriefed, both psychologically and professionally? What's the process?
Sure. So we have a CISM team that deals with critical incidents in our folks, and they'll have access to them to get the kind of counseling and other services they may need. That's an important part of what we do. But they will be asked to provide a statement at some point in time during the investigative process, and they typically do. That's a process that goes from the investigators to the individuals that are involved, and sometimes attorneys as well. So.
You have a suspect who opened fire in public on a road. For someone who's not familiar with this area, what does that area look like? Is there a lot of cars, homes? Like, are we lucky that we didn't see more collateral damage?
It's a residential street, so absolutely we're lucky that there wasn't more damage. Probably a policeman's biggest fear is getting into a shootout with someone in an area like this, where there's so many uncontrolled variables. Luckily, the time of day that it was, we were fortunate there weren't a lot of people out at that point in time, and the issue was resolved very quickly, but that is always a major concern.
Let's say that scenario was different. For your average person who may experience something like this, a rare event where there's gunfire exchange, what should the average citizen do and think initially in that scenario? What should be like the
Exit the area immediately. Get as far away from the situation as you can, and that's whether it's a law enforcement situation or they're in a building or an active shooter situation takes place. The first option is always get as far away from danger as you possibly can.
Can you expound a little bit more on how kind of lucky it was that none of the officers were hurt? Like, obviously, as leaders of a department, I'm assuming that's always something that's on your mind, and it's always I'm assuming a huge cycle.
That burden weighs heavy because we send people into harm's way every day, and these guys knew what they were doing today. They were after someone who had already shot someone, already shown a careless disregard for those around them, and they put themselves in harm's way. It's always a concern. We're lucky today because we're talking about an individual who was on a bicycle, which just elevates you, and individuals in a car that were trying to follow that individual. So he had a vantage point where he was able to turn around and take a shot before they could do anything to defend themselves. And unfortunately, everybody that gets into this line of work knows they may be faced with that at some point in time.
You said it was quick. From first point of contact with those deputies with that suspect to the end of this entire deal, what was that time span?
I don't have a complete timeline on that, so I don't want to misspeak, but we're talking minutes or less. It wasn't, a long drawn-out time period. It all went down very fast. And since we had those resources in the area, they were able to get him into custody very quickly once he started fleeing through those neighbors' yards. Yeah, that was the case that Chief Guzman spoke about.
So it was a warrant for attempted murder. It also included possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So those were two charges. I believe there were three. What was the third charge? Armed burglary was the third charge.
And just to add to that, we have our robbery homicide unit conducting today's investigation, and there will be additional charges pending for what happened today as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you.